You know, it's time for Explain and Verify. Samgele Masego is here in studio with us to check in with the municipalities. Samgele, good evening to you. What do you have for us tonight?
Indeed, Bongiwe. Tonight's episode looks at South Africa's municipalities that are in dire crisis. That's according to the latest Municipal Finance Management Act audit report released by the Auditor-General Tsakani Maluleke, and the findings are very sobering, Bongiwe. This is what she had to say when she was speaking at the white paper review of local government in the country. Mayors, councils and executive authorities are failing to fulfill their legislated responsibilities. That was the words of the Auditor General speaking to those particular political parties in her audit report, and basically saying that mayors and speakers don't understand their functions within municipalities. Bongiwe. But moving on to our very next slide, looking at the 255 municipalities that are there within the country, that will show you the state of the 205 municipalities across the country. Only 41 received clean audits, 59 improved, 40 municipalities regressed. 59 municipalities improved, 40 municipalities regressed, Bongiwe. And then we look at issues of compliance in our next slide. The state of the 255 municipalities when it comes to compliance in forms of legislation out of these municipalities, 83% were found to have materially violated key financial laws. 83% were found to have materially violated key financial laws. Over the last 3 years, that non-compliance has led to 87 billion rands of irregular expenditure. 87 billion rands out of these municipalities for financial mismanagement laws, 87 billion basically on irregular expenditure. 13 with no financials, 206 breached legislation, Bongiwe.
And Samgele, when we look at the clean audits, right, one wonders because even when the Auditor General was speaking, she's raising alarm bells even about a province like a Free State, for example, where there would not even be documents that are key that would have been submitted, no financials, yet we still are yet to hear from even some of the officials there, including the Premier.
It's very interesting when you look at the issues of clean audits. Let's go to our very next slide that looks at the clean audits across all provinces within the country. That will show that the Western Cape leads with 20 clean audits. That is the province of the Democratic Alliance where it leads. They have 20 clean audits. You go to the Northern Cape, Zamani Sol only has 2 clean audits. You go to the Eastern Cape, Oscar Diamabuyane on his 30-day leave because his sons are throwing through passage, rightfully so. Only 6 municipalities. The Free State, none, zero, nada.
The Northwest?
Northwest, Nono Maloi, the provincial chairperson of the political party in charge there, and Lazarus, the premier, zero, nada. Gauteng, Panyaza Lusufi, deplorable, only 2 with clean audits. KwaZulu-Natal, relatively okay, 7 out of those particular municipalities, but still very bad. Mpumalanga, Mandla Ndlovu, 2. Limpopo, that would be Popira-Matupa, only 2 municipalities with clean audits as well within that particular province. So, Bongiwe, it is really a dire strait. It's not just about compliance, it's about service delivery. At least 49 municipalities are in such dire financial state. They officially disclosed significant doubt about their ability to continue operating. Whereas still 36 of them have made it that this same admission for the past 3 years. 36 of these municipalities have for the past 3 years admitted in our very next slide that the financial viability of these particular municipalities and mismanagement. Municipal expenditure, Bongiwe, 561 billion rands. 137 billion rands irregular expenditure. Municipal expenditure, 561.95 billion rands. 137 billion irregular expenditure out of that 561 billion rands. 17.6 billion rands fruitless, wasteful expenditure since 2021. 14.5 billion rands interest and penalties. 134.52 billion on salaries. That is the expenditure, Bongiwe, roughly of municipalities within the country, and how much that figure staggeringly on irregular expenditure. 137 billion rands, 17.65 billion rands on fruitless, wasteful expenditure since 2021, Bongiwe.
It's quite shocking, Samgele, that even as infrastructure crumbles, we're seeing salaries are being prioritized.
Indeed, salaries are being prioritized as the infrastructure crumbles within these municipalities. You look at Johannesburg, you look at the eThekwini municipality, well, they are disaster prone as well. A large chunk of their bulk water infrastructure was washed away during the floods. In that particular province of KwaZulu-Natal, you go to other parts of the country, disaster prone as well in the Eastern Cape. You just look at the Ora Tambo District Municipality, where we've had various organizations coming in to assist within that particular municipality, led by Mayor Ngundwana within the district municipality. But if you go to our very next slide, which is a very dire strait, the municipalities' infrastructure neglect. Assets worth 738.8 billion rands. Maintenance only sitting at 3%, Bongiwa. But another one that is rather interesting is when it comes to the issue of their debt to the power utility Eskom. Moving on to our very next slide, which looks at how much municipalities owe to the power utility within the country, Eskom. Debt to Eskom and water boards. Eskom, municipalities owe 50, I'm going to round it off, 56 billion rands to Eskom. That is 55.5 billion rands that municipalities owe to the power utility Eskom. That is a big black hole when it comes to the South African economy. The water boards, your Umgeni Water, your Rand Water, Umgeni Tugela in KwaZulu-Natal, the Belenkune Water Board, they owe municipalities 21.2 billion rands to water boards when it comes to water and water provision within the country. For instance, if you look at Rand Water in Gauteng, there's a huge chunk of water that is lost through burst pipes that belong to municipal infrastructure that is not being maintained properly, Bongiwe.
And these are the same municipalities, Samkele, and I do understand that revenue generation can be a problem, especially when some of the residents don't pay. But at the same time, these are municipalities, some of them spend money hiring consultants who are not even telling them that something as basic as servicing your debt is of critical importance.
Speaking about consultants, the mayor of Johannesburg, speaking in his capacity as the regional chairperson of the ANC, with the refurbishment of the Kliptown precinct where the Freedom Charter was adopted, it is in a deplorable state. They're saying that they are going to refurbish that particular area of Kliptown. They're going to be hiring consultants to help them with that particular work. Moving on to our very next slide, when it comes to contracts of municipalities and ethical procurement, it is a very huge issue. The Auditor-General, not to pick on the city of Joburg, not to say it's the mayor's fault. He inherited a very bad government after successive mayors that caused instability within that particular municipality. It did find in the Auditor-General's report that you've got a number of government officials, municipal officials, and councillors who've got direct links to service providers within the municipality of the city of Johannesburg, and it runs into billions of rands. So, irregular unethical procurement, 462 contracts were found by the Auditor General. That amounts to 285 million rands that is being lost to unethical procurement processes that is currently taking place within municipalities. This took place in 73 municipalities, highlighting deep-rooted conflicts of interest, where municipal officials, where councillors have direct links to businesses that are service providers within municipalities.
And one wonders, why is council not seized with some of these matters in order to discuss what some of the colleagues are doing there? Because that's actually the work of council, right? To hold those that are in power accountable as well.
Councils don't even know how to craft an integrated development plan. Councils, speakers, don't even know how to craft, some of them, integrated development plans for financial years of municipalities, which looks to the development of those particular municipalities. That is what the Auditor General found, that sometimes those speakers who are in charge of IDPs, they don't even consult the business fraternity. There is no input from business on IDPs that she went through from various municipalities, and in particular, metropolitan municipalities, where Chamber of Commerce's economic hubs of the country are at. Businesses is not consulted within those particular municipalities. Looking at our very last, second to last slide, that looks at the various municipalities in the country, the metros. Metro focuses 295 billion rands, 48% of the total municipal budget. So metros, that would be your Ekurhuleni, your Johannesburg, your Cape Town, your Tshwane, eThekwini, Nelson Mandela, Buffalo City, Mangaung. They are apportioned to 48% of the municipal budget that is roughly 295 billion rands, Bongiwe, serving almost 9 million households across the country. Yet, the interesting part, yet the performance has drastically diminished and declined in those metro municipalities.
And it's quite the big one, Samkele, because when you think about the fact that these are critical, and one wonders then, what about financial instability, especially when you look at some of these metros?
Going into our very last slide that speaks at financial disability and mismanagement within these particular metros, Bongiwe, Tshwane and Mangaung are financially unstable. Tshwane and Mangaung are financially unstable. There is some move to try and make them financially stable with Gregory Ntatisi, the mayor of Mangaung, and you've also got Nasipi Moyo, the mayor of Tshwane, and Johan Metla, the city manager, and also the city manager. There were two city managers in Mangaung. I'm not sure if there are two or there's one. Gregory Ntatisi, the mayor, if he's been able to sort out that particular situation. But those are disclosing doubts about their ability to operate for the 4th year in a row. Overspending continues to be a major problem since 2021. The metros recorded 14.6 billion in unauthorized expenditure. Those are those municipalities. 14.6 billion in unauthorized expenditure. But moving on to this particular slide, metros in focus, 118 billion debt write-off. 118 billion rands debt write-off within these municipalities, metros. 8.6 billion water bill that is there to pay. 14.5 billion rands in electricity that they owe. Rather interesting, this one of electricity, because I remember Panyaza Lusufi during the campaigns going to Soweto and saying they are writing off the debt of those who owe electricity in the southwestern townships. They are writing off the debt of the people who owe electricity in Soweto, which basically says they were getting electricity free from a power utility that is effectively bankrupt and is unable to stay afloat, writing off that particular electricity bill, further creating a dependency and expendency from the people to South African government to forever be paying things for South Africans and for them not to go out and work for themselves. Not to say that they shouldn't be getting services from government. There is free electricity that is there. But what about someone who's staying in an urban area who is debt-riddled, who cannot afford electricity, who needs that particular reprieve from government and is not getting it from Panyaza Hendrik Lusufi?
And I suppose, Samgele, it speaks to, when you look at the issue of management of the indigent policy and who needs to be on there, who doesn't need to be in there, and at the same time, how they manage the debt with some of the residents, because in some instances, it is allowed to go on for too long. But at the same time, then you juxtapose that with the state of the country's economy, where people simply aren't getting jobs, people aren't working, people aren't able to generate an income. So how do you begin to deal with the issues that they were talking about of the funding model?
It's going to be very difficult to deal with the funding model. For instance, if you look at the white paper on the review of local government within the country, that white paper clearly states that the assumption that was made in the 1998 white paper, that 90% of the municipal funds will come from rates and taxpayers within municipalities and 10% will come from grants from national and provincial government. That is unsustainable, looking at the economy of the country, looking at how people are not working, looking at inflation as well. So it essentially means you have to rework and relook at the funding model of local government. You have to relook also at how you remunerate councillors within a council. Because if you take someone with a wealth of experience who is in the provincial legislature in KwaZulu-Natal, for instance, I'll use that province as an example, or Limpopo, who is in the legislature, you take them to Tabazimbi to be a councillor. There is a huge salary discrepancy between the two. So your highly skilled individuals within the legislature will not agree to go to a lower level because that ultimately affects their livelihoods. And those are some of the issues that this particular white paper on local government will look at. The audit report confirms that many communities across the country are already and feel that municipalities are not performing to their maximum capabilities and they are not getting the service delivery that they need. The repeated warnings and rising concerns of public frustrations, the culture of impunity persists. The Auditor-General is plainly saying that governance has collapsed in too many towns and cities. Until there is real accountability, consequences for wrongdoing, and a shift in priorities, service delivery will continue to suffer. We'll continue tracking the story and keeping you updated on the picture of how these provinces and these municipalities and cities are performing. But for tonight, we will leave it there. But definitely go and engage with the white paper on the review of local government within the country, the pertinent question that is being asked. Do we still need the 257 municipalities that we currently have, or should we trim them down and ultimately look at bolstering service delivery and bringing in capable people to run these municipalities, whether it be in Umshwati, in Tabazimbi, or Lipelenkune?
All right, and that wraps up Explain and Verify. Do tune in next week for another installment.